Yes. Are we live? I think we are, and we're recording. Excellent.
Yay!
Hi. Woo!
First live stream.
Woohoo! Hi, I'm Alexander Davis with HeroicJourney.com. I have my friend here, Mythica, and what we're doing today is it's for my TV show concept called Heroic Journey, and what we're doing is we're basically taking people's role-playing experiences and trying to provide positive feedback in how they can improve their game. For this example, as a test and proof of concept, I've invited Mythica to judge approximately, say, 15 to 20 links to a particular group that is run by Nerdarchy. They've ended their campaign, so they're done with the series, but the first 4 episodes or so of their game system I've brought about. It's people go to the Marvel Universe, discover they have powers, and do sort of the whole trope where they are dealing with having powers coming from an unpowered world. So that's their basic concept. It's the Marvel Universe, so which we're about to see, about to have which one
Avengers Endgame
is coming out. So for everyone,
what do you mean? Which one is coming out? How dare you?
I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
I've already bought my ticket. Opening night, 10:15 show, IMAX screen, center row, front row.
She might be a fan.
I am more than a fan. If you must know, I'm an actual Marvel Avenger.
Really?
I actually have my letter from Jarvis at Marvel that states, "Hello, Secret Avenger. You have been accepted into the ranks of Earth's mightiest heroes," and I am in Secret Avengers issue #1. So I am an actual Marvel Avenger.
No longer secret.
No.
She just busted that. So, just to let everybody know, that's what we're doing. She's going to react to it, give feedback as if she was a judge. And that's the basic concept of what Mythica is doing, is as a fun way to help me. That's really, and my show concept, which is Heroic Journey, where you take and you try and make people better gamers.
He says that really fast, so what he's saying is Heroic Journey. Just, it's really fast.
I've been saying it for years, so.
This is their first time.
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying it for years. First time you've heard it, I'll try and slow it down.
Heroic Journey. You heard it here first.
Excellent. Well, let's get on to the first link.
All right. Let's see it. Let's do it.
Boom.
I like this screen sharing stuff.
Okay, I gotta actually tell it that you're supposed to. There we go.
There
YouTube.
We go. We want to pop that up to the screen.
Please join a movement of 6 million.
Because it's unless you pay.
I did.
Oh.
Today, yes.
Paid today.
Americans to impeach Donald Trump. Trump has committed 9 different impeachable offenses.
Yeah.
We jumped through a portal. I'm sure somebody understands that.
It was probably my crib, Crystal.
That one right there.
Make that big.
There we go.
Now, wait a minute. That's going to spoil it. No, it's not.
Alright.
So basically, what happened was we had 2 people reacting, and I can even pop back. I probably better not.
Hold on, this is our first time out the gate. Thank you for waiting.
Just to replay it because it's really fast.
We jumped through a portal. I'm sure somebody understands that.
It was probably my crib, Crystal.
So, what do you think? Anything that are interesting?
They said 2 sentences to each other, so I don't have anything quite yet.
Okay, alright. I wonder if some of these might be a little short, so that may be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just having 2 sentences, that's really not enough to have a basis for a relationship or conversation. So, for example, you can have 2 people that interact with each other, and they may have their own shorthand language to each other in which you're trying to gauge from an outside perspective. If I say to you, hey dude, remember that time in Helsinki, right?
Right.
Then that's an entire conversation. So I don't know that you always know
And
what that language background connection is. And so, but that wasn't enough to establish.
so I may have a problem with how short the clips are.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I understand that. But then again, what was it? The scene in Captain Marvel where he explains the whole deal with, I like the bees sort of situation. And then they start talking about Helsinki. This guy isn't on the right level. So, all right.
So I'm not really sure.
Okay. Let's see if this one works better.
If you shop on Amazon, you should use Wikibuy. It's a browser extension that automatically compares Amazon's prices with other sellers to see if there's a better price out there.
Because
We jump through a portal, I'm sure somebody understands that.
It was probably McCrae.
I love this.
Well, they jumped through a portal, but we've established that.
Yes, I agree. Stop. No bad. What are you doing? Hang on. This is. I'm not always. Okay. Stop. What is it doing?
That
I
was
think
the
I'm
first
trying to
link.
change. Right. I think I'm trying to change a link. And I set it back. Oh, we were so trouble. Why are you trying to think? I love these links. It is not being good to me. Yeah, I don't want you to update. Please do not update that mistake. Okay. Because occasionally with Excel, it doesn't.
We're having technical difficulties, but this is our first time out the gate, so bear with us.
Operator error on my part, not her part. She's good. Okay. It didn't.
It didn't.
No, it didn't.
We'll just go to the next one.
Yep, we'll go to the next one.
Did you learn how to do that from Saturday morning cartoons? Be honest.
Oh, wait, what?
Are you saying that out like a
Yes, I am saying that out loud.
Oh, you're saying that to the guys?
Yes.
While she's talking to them, I'm probably going to try to sneak behind. Okay, done. So,
And was there anything interesting in there? 'Cause I think that I've actually over-trimmed some of these a little bit much. Did it seem like a good point for a character?
Well, first of all, I'm missing context.
Okay.
So, first of all, what she said could have been construed as metagaming, but we don't know because, I haven't seen the whole conversation to have context. I'm missing a lot of context.
Okay, let's do.
Man's villains at Rat Base.
Yeah.
Well, he's got Electros, Porcupine.
he does have the best rogues gallery in the Marvel Universe.
He's
right in between Batman and the Flash.
Oh,
Vulture,
Vulture,
Scorpion.
What's those three guys? God, there's like three
The Enforcers?
half-hat. Yeah. Them. Who knows, man? They could come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, one of them looks like Hank Williams.
So back to the game.
All right, so now we're
Okay, good.
actually back to the
And
game.
Ooh,
So
94.
now we've established
And
that.
that's intuitive or agile.
I rolled a 33, doesn't even matter.
I got 25, man. I'm so caught up talking about comics.
Okay, so Dave and Doug failed. Who else failed?
I got a 15.
Okay, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Tyler, good.
One of the Marvel
Okay,
superheroes.
that's good. That's good. It's a real shame. I'm not even gonna say it. Okay, so this happens, and bang, literally a flashbang goes off. So you guys can see everybody else is going to be -6 column shifts to any. No. I'm gonna make it a little bit fairer for you guys. -3 column shifts to anything you guys are gonna do, which probably brings you to shift 0 anyway. But it is a flashbang grenade. Those things suck. So
It gives me a people on my goods.
So these guys come running in. They some of them pull out money sacks. They actually have a stupid little dollar sign on them. Fill the bag, fill the bags, fill the bags.
Excuse me, sir. Where did you
They
get
have
them?
AK-47s, and one of them has a pistol.
Did you learn how to do that from Saturday morning cartoons? Be honest.
That was so much better.
All right.
Oh, wait, what?
Like I said, my fault.
But-
Are you saying that out like a
Yes,
bastard?
I am saying that out loud.
Oh, you're saying that to the guys?
Yes.
While she's talking to them, I'm probably gonna try to like sneak behind.
Okay, done. So make a. You can make also agility or initiative, intuition to get behind them.
Okay. So I chose this scene because I really enjoyed the humor play of Megan, who's the female player here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's primarily what I was trying to demonstrate. So I may have, like I said, I probably trimmed these too close. It's important for me to realize that it happens. But I was just trying to show off a point I would have chosen to make sure to display in the show, as an example.
Got you. So, several things. You have context in your head that the audience does not have. And you also have to cut off half your face. There you go. So the audience needs that when we're watching. Like when I'm watching and when these guys are watching.
Yeah.
So when he goes ahead and says, all right, back to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you guys roll? You got a 15. Okay. You're down 6. And then, nope, that's not going to be really fair for you. Let's do 3. And then he further describes what happens as a result of their roll, which is they're disoriented, so they're -3 in all their actions. And then on top of that, the whole idea of him describing the guys are coming out of the bank, they're holding money bags. Now we're actually seeing what the characters are seeing. And then there's the interaction of her saying, hey guys, have you ever seen like one of the Saturday morning cartoons?
Yes.
And then he has to establish, are you speaking in character or out of character? And she establishes she's speaking in character. As soon as she does that, another character says, all right, while she's talking, I'm going to try and take this action. Because she established that's what she was doing. But first the game master had to establish whether or not she was talking in character or out of character.
Yeah. He had to make sure he was tracking it properly. He didn't want to, if it was an in-character thing, he didn't want to overwrite her agency, and if it was an out-of-character thing, it's like, okay, cute, but what are you really going to do? So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind for when I'm designing the show for later events.
Okay. Yeah, everyone has to have that context. There has to be the setup. You can't just show a person saying one sentence and then another person saying one sentence and having no context of where that sentence is in the conversation.
Learning stuff. It's a learning curve.
Yep. Is that right?
Alright. So, now here's an example of a scene where I've got two characters feeding off each other. So that way they can, interact, show more interactions, really better.
Traffic is already bad enough. We don't need people in songs to slow it down.
Just sit back so we don't
Indicating sit down.
I seat myself and fold my hands in my lap like a proper lady.
I will also make like a proper lady and do the same. Yeah.
I'm just sitting there holding my head.
Don't worry, you'll be fine in 10 minutes.
I like to annoy people. I know it's a ruse. I probably just like spin the chair around, kind of like, sit on it backward style.
Kyle, you feel a lot of anger in the room.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay, so they say, you guys wait here. You got somebody who wants to talk to you.
You guys have seen Goodfellas way too many times.
The one guy walks up to you and says, "Are you insulted, Joe Pesci?"
No, I love Joe Pesci.
All right then.
I kind of like wave him over. I'm like, waiter, yeah, we'll have a large plain pizza.
I just sigh and shake my head. Here it comes.
I only quasi-know these people.
Are you saying that clown?
You take 10 points of damage across your face. This time it's not a tail, it's an open hand slap.
Okay. So, what did you think of that scene?
Well, we've got the group interacting with an intermediary bad guy.
Right.
Right. He's not the bad guy, but he's the guy who you've got to deal with before you actually talk to the bad guy.
Yep.
I don't. So a few things that would be helpful in terms of trying to give them each feedback. A, not knowing what their orientation is as a player, as a character, and how are they role-playing out that based on what their character sheet is written up as.
Okay.
So, for example, if one of the characters has an antagonistic personality, he's in alignment with what he's role-playing in terms of saying, "Yo, waiter, can I have a plain pizza?" You know.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing is that I had a hard time determining who the game master actually said got 10 points of damage.
Okay. All right.
Just from the interaction. Somebody got hit for 10 points of damage with an open hand slap to the face, but I'm not sure actually which of the characters, because it could have been Pizza Guy, and it could have been the guy who didn't say Joe Pesci, he said Joe Fesci.
Yeah.
Which could have been an intentional insult as well, or the player not knowing, or the character intentionally making a jab at it us.
Yes. So, one of the things to keep in mind about these particular series of clips is that they are essentially playing themselves in a lot of these cases. What happened was that their people that they're supposed to be were drawn into an alternate universe that has Marvel in it. So they were drawn into a version of the Marvel universe. So they're essentially playing themselves a lot of the time. Without powers initially, and then eventually they learn and gain control of powers.
Okay. So that's a context that I didn't have also.
I apologize for not explaining that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But she's gonna hurt me. No. But
so I'm always going to, in order to give good feedback, I always have to know context in order to give good feedback.
I do have to admit that. And one of the problems is that we don't have the character sheets to look at. So that's there might be references to powers or abilities or skills that really aren't going to help us because we don't know if they're on the character sheet. Speaking of character sheets, I actually have a reference. You know, this one's about Ty, and I believe it's this character right here.
Mm-hmm.
And to give you a little bit of setup, sometimes it seems like he's not always there. As a player, you know, you want everybody invested onto the ball and ready to go, and not all the times he's doing that. But this is a really good example of him actually being on the ball. So we'll just pop that link up and see what it looks like.
Take a look.
And as soon as I remember to double click. Oh, no, not you. Okay. It read as a double click, which meant that it wants me to. No. There's the link. Okay. No. See, because I had everything set up toward go to the time. There we go. Yay.
Hey, how's it going? Ever heard about this game called League of Legends? Well, you're hearing about it now. Check it out. Each game you get...
We call it Ty. If you buy if you buy occult lore, then you will have full access to all kinds of magic. Period. Including dimensional. But
As a talent?
Yes, as a talent. Or your other choice is, what do you call it? If you do make some kind of otherworldly friends, you know what I'm saying? Like the way that usually works is you have to have a contact in the other dimensions. So like, for instance, if you get Eternity or Dormammu or any of the Faultine, any of the other Faultine or the Viganti, one of the three Viganti, or all three of them, as a contact, which only costs 500 karma points, by the way, you can entreat them to use dimensional spells.
Well, fortunately, I already have a Cult Lord as one of my talents.
That's right, you do. Okay, done. So you'll be able to figure it out on your own how to use dimensional spells.
Okay, cool.
And that's one of the things I was trying to bring out with this clip was that scene where he's like, hey, I've kind of already got, but he lets the GM continue, which is actually a good thing for a lot of players in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
But that was sort of we don't have the character sheet, we can't see, but he's actually paying attention to what's going on, even if the GM isn't particularly, catching that, the player already has this ability. So that's the reason why I'm showing that.
Gotcha.
So is there, and I particularly liked it because this guy, he's the one that maybe is a little bit behind the curve on the other ones. Let's see, what would be another fun link to talk about? Here we have an example of Kyle trying to aid. Wait.
Okay, so seeing this like Jedi Force battle going on, I guess I'm going to dissipate the smoke on the ground, mainly just to get close to Electro, and I'm going to come with an uppercut from my mist form on the ground.
Oh shoot! All right, roll, and I'm going to give you +2 for stealth.
Alright.
+2 to hit because of stealth.
Well, it wasn't typical. That is a 32. Yeah.
Yes, they can be kill shots, William. Okay, so tell me you're fighting all this stuff. Would you get green or what?
Let's see. I was a typical +2 excellent 32.
Typical, and you rolled a what?
32. I think I'm just below.
You missed.
Yep.
Oh, what? Yeah, you did miss. But it does kind of throw them off a little bit. What's going on, Megan? What do you want to do?
All right, that is not the correct link. I hate that. He was trying. Oh, that's right. He didn't succeed, but he was trying to help an ally.
Mm-hmm.
So the point was there.
All right, so what I'm noticing from the clips that you're giving me is that there's critical information in your understanding from watching. He's trying to help an ally.
Right.
Right?
And I cut that out because it's too early.
Yeah, so that I didn't have the context in watching.
Okay, alright.
So a lot of this has to do with, like, less examples, more context.
Yep, that's what I need to do. Matter of fact, one of the notes I took, while you were explaining it to me, is that I need to really have the dice start. It's like, okay, what'd you roll? That's probably the point at which we need to start the scene,
yes,
rather than right as they communicate something to the GM. So
yeah,
right,
because that gives the context for like the actions that are being taken and what's actually going on.
Okay, Dave did good. I did like this. And I probably need to just explain more or have something more written and like go, okay, for example, this scene, they're all going up against the bad guy, he's Arcade from Marvel Comics. What you're going to see is it should be Kyle trying to really annoy the bad guys. It's essentially his plot for this particular scene. It works and it's on target and it feeds into the background of the character. So, of both his power usage and the enemy he's opposing.
See, now that's a good setup.
I'll eventually get this.
Everybody's probably going to hate you for this, but Arcade's going to hate you most of all, which is what I want. So, I pretty much look to whoever's closest to me. I pretty much say I'm sorry. But then I look up at Arcade, and I say goodbye to your ratings. I just smoke screen as much as I can, black out, so none of his cameras can catch anything. I want the viewer count to drop and him to just give up.
Take 50 karma. Take 50 karma, man. Good looking out. Good looking out. That's a effing good idea, man. Holy crap. Effing Kyle got an effing good idea. All right. Mojo's better. Okay.
Okay. So that's him in character. What do you think? You think it's a good example to capture what we're looking for?
Well, there's a couple of things that I'm noticing. If I were a new person coming into watching this, I'd be completely lost. And you're looking at something that's so subtle.
Okay.
That the average person watching is not going to catch it.
Okay.
Like,
all right, it's not true. I think that's maybe a problem with some of the older game systems, is that they aren't really designed for displaying the fields I'm interested in as heroic tourney. That may be an issue where we're looking for things that are more subtle than most people would see. So,
yeah.
But I've actually found a really good news system. It's really going to be, I think.
So, like, for example, watching the GM respond to the action he took, he's like, man, that was brilliant. But we don't actually know, watching them, why it was brilliant. We only know it was brilliant because the GM says it was brilliant.
And actually, that's something I kind of do want to remind people who are judging for me, that the GM's reaction isn't always the best thing you should latch onto. And it's something that's part of the reason why some of these are too
But
subtle.
his reaction is giving me context.
It is. It is.
So if I had been sitting down and watching these guys and then see something like, wow, he's actually interacting this time. He's actually using his powers in a creative way this time. Then, but because the only reason I'd be able to have that kind of feedback is because I've seen his character journey.
Okay.
Just seeing him take a basic action, I have no context for that being good or not good. It's walking into a room and watching somebody take an action, not knowing.
So.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I'm actually, in this case, let's go with, would it be better to say have an hour-long episode and judges watching and then giving feedback in a separate channel? Or do you think we should go with, or like the us up here in the video down there, giving feedback during the actual action? Or is do you think we can get the clips going at the right contextual information?
I think we'd have to play with it.
Okay.
I think we'd have to play with it. Because for me personally, I'm at the right level of, I've done enough role playing to know how sitting around at the table, or in this case the video screen, right, so that people are role playing but not necessarily in the same space is going. But it's much like, I go to Lair of Abraxas, for example, where you have a bunch of people sitting around different tables, and you just kind of walk up, and people are in the midst of a game. And somebody rolls an action, somebody does something, okay, you have a failure, critical hit, and this is the result of that.
Yeah.
Right? Just walking up, passing somebody, having that scene.
Like you're at a convention.
Yeah, you wouldn't know whether or not that was a creative action or not. You wouldn't know if it was in alignment for the character. You wouldn't know if it was metagaming.
Mm-hmm.
There would be...
Yeah, there's not a lot to judge on.
Right, and then but you're asking me to look at exactly that and say, what do
what do
you think of that? And I'm like, I watched somebody in a room take an action. I observed it.
Yes.
And that's about all I'm able to say as a result of that. But if I were to actually watch a session and see the progression of logic that the characters went through to get to that point, then I'd have enough context to give feedback of like, that was a really creative thing that he did, using what was in the room to do that, or knowing that the bad guy uses his powers by observation in the cameras and blocking him out. That was a really brilliant way of totally cutting off him from his abilities, or pissing him off, or one of the other two.
Right.
But I don't know enough to make that
call.
Yeah, but you have that context because you sat here and watched it.
I've watched it 3 or 4 times.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm completely missing that context. So one of the things would be to watch a game session and be able to get that kind of context, and to be able to either watch it or sit and hit pause and go, okay, now we just watched him messing around for an hour, not really being engaged, kind of being sulky, and he's actually engaged now.
Right.
And being creative with what he's doing. Like in engaging and asserting himself as a character.
Okay.
And creatively using what's in the environment combined with his powers versus just trying to blow through it by power alone. That's good role playing. That I can do commentary on. That I can say, that was good role playing because he's been sitting back either as a character or a player sulking because he doesn't feel involved. But to watch a 30-second clip and say, tell me his inner psyche. Like,
might be a little difficult.
It's a bit of a push.
Okay. All right. So I think what we might want to do is probably cut it now-ish. But what we'll do if you want to do this again is maybe we'll sit down and watch like an hour-long episode, and then plan that if you see something, we can hit the pause button, go through the entire thing, and then talk about these particular things. And I think the system I'm looking at is called Prowlers and Paragons, and it's a superhero role-playing game, sort of mostly. But the interesting thing is that it depends on how many successes you get, depends on how much control you have over the scenario and situation. So if you go up and you're like, I'll punch the bad guy, and you hit him and you do get like 6 successes on your hit, you get to control what happens to him. It's like, he flies back through the wall, and you have to deal with all these things, and you can add more things to it. But if you get like only 1 or 2 successes, then the GM can, you've still succeeded, but the GM can't negate your ability, but he can add details to it that make it more like that. And so same thing reverse, like the GM only hits you by 1 or 2 successes. You can't negate his success, but you can increase your input to it. So that's sort of what I think that will be a better system to review and look at.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I think we learned a lot from doing this today.
I think we did. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. But even though this is on my channel, but we're doing this together. So I have the channel. He has the equipment.
She's got fame. So we'll put it that way too. So y'all have fun and enjoy yourselves.
Thanks for watching.